Right now, outside number 10, something far greater than glass or stone is breaking its trust itself. Not a barrier, not a window, but the bond between a leader and his people. And tonight, that shattered promise carries a single name: Starmer.
To serve our country, ready to restore Britain to the service of working people.
Since taking office, the numbers have told a story louder than any speech. Electricity prices up 52%. Heating bills tripled. Inflation swallowing every pay rise. Across Britain, families aren't budgeting anymore, they're surviving, cutting meals just to keep the lights on. Thousands have gathered outside. Number 10, not waving party flags, but holding bills. Proof of betrayal printed in red and black. They're not chanting politics. They're crying for survival. This isn't chaos. This is Britain waking up from Parliament Square to the iron gates of Downing Street. The anger feels different tonight. It's colder, sharper, real. The chants began at 6 p.m. They haven't stopped. Heat or eat? That's the choice now. For the first time in decades, Britons aren't protesting ideology, they're protesting existence itself. Average energy bills have doubled since Labour took power. Over 2 million households now live in fuel poverty. Inflation still hovers around 9%, wages have flatlined, and grocery prices are up nearly 20%. People aren't running out of patience anymore, they're running out of money. Police have sealed off 3 streets around number 10, but the crowd keeps swelling: teachers, nurses, pensioners, shopkeepers. The faces of a nation pushed to the edge. Inside those gates, silence. Outside, a nation screaming to be heard. This isn't chaos. It's consequence. The moment when quiet suffering becomes defiance and Britain finally says, enough. In 2024, Keir Starmer stood before the country promising stability after chaos. He vowed to rebuild trust, protect workers, and restore compassion to government. But beneath that calm exterior, another story was unfolding. Campaign donors linked to offshore energy firms quietly funded Labour's green transition. Weeks after his victory, £30 billion in subsidies were approved, most of it flowing overseas. At home, heating taxes rose, and British families began rationing warmth. His message was working people first. The result, working people last. When questioned, Starmer dismissed the pain as a necessary adjustment. But to the millions now choosing between food and heat, there's nothing necessary about suffering. That phrase became a symbol of arrogance, a reminder that the poor always seem to pay for someone else's progress. By last winter, the truth was undeniable. A baker in Leeds closed after 40 years. A pub in Cornwall went dark. A print shop in Manchester sold its final order to pay its final bill. And when asked whether his plan was sustainable, Starmer smiled and said, "Transition always comes with sacrifice." He just never said whose sacrifice it would be. That smile, cold and rehearsed, went viral. Not as leadership, but detachment. For many Britons, that was the breaking point, the moment they realised the man who promised compassion had none left to give. Then came the leaks. Documents exposing that one of Labour's key climate partners donated £2.4 million before the election and later secured exclusive offshore wind contracts. No competition. No oversight. Independent journalists tried to report it, their articles disappeared within hours. Social posts flagged as misinformation. Television pundits dismissed it as climate denial. But leaked emails told another story, profit dressed as progress. Even the government's ethics office admitted it was reviewing potential conflicts. Reviewing, not investigating. When power feels threatened, it doesn't argue. It deletes. And that silence, deliberate, calculated, was the spark. Because people finally saw it wasn't incompetence. It was indifference. Outside the headlines, the crisis lived in homes. Nurses holding signs after 12-hour shifts. I save lives but can't afford to heat my home. Teachers watching children arrive in winter coats because breakfast or heating never both. pensioners in Newcastle sharing a single heater between 3 flats. Over 4 million households now spend more than 10% of their income just to stay warm. These aren't radicals. They're the backbone of Britain taxpayers, parents, workers, now told to sacrifice for the planet, while the powerful never miss a meal or a bonus. When empathy dies at the top, suffering becomes invisible. But tonight, the invisible have stepped into the light. While the nation froze, Parliament stayed warm. Expense records revealed ministers claiming heating costs for second homes and chauffeured cars idling outside Westminster. One official even expensed £1,200 worth of designer blankets. The poor give up heat. The rich collect subsidies. Energy Secretary Sarah Jones called protesters useful idiots. Climate Minister David Walsh branded them scientifically illiterate. Easy words for people who've never stared at a dead electricity meter. This isn't science anymore. It's hypocrisy. A government selling morality like a brand while its citizens freeze in silence. Every empire falls the same way, not from invasion, but indifference. And tonight, indifference is Britain's ruling ideology. Net zero was never the enemy. But the way it's been weaponized, that's the crime. You can't save the planet by destroying the people living on it. Carbon taxes crush families who can't afford a kettle while billionaires pocket subsidies. When Shell posted £4.1 billion in profit, its effective tax rate was 19%. A single mother in Liverpool paid 100% of her doubled bill. No loopholes, no accountant, no escape. That's not transition, that's punishment. And punishment sold as progress is the purest form of cruelty. Starmer calls it the cost of doing the right thing. But the right thing never demands the poor pay twice, once in cash, and again in dignity. This is no longer just an energy crisis. It's a moral one. Fuel poverty up from 8% to 14%. Hospital admissions for cold-related illness up 31%. 3 elderly citizens found dead in unheated homes in South London. Inside number 10. Advisors insist frustration will fade. Outside, the roar only grows louder. Because this isn't a policy failure anymore, it's a breach of trust. Even Labour MPs whisper about emergency adjustments. One Tory backbencher warned, "You can't save the planet by bankrupting the people." For once, Parliament is united in fear. Britain is polite by nature. We queue, we apologise, we endure. But every nation has a limit. And tonight, that limit has been reached. The crowd outside, number 10, no longer asks for change, they demand it. This isn't left versus right anymore. It's up versus down, those who rule, and those who must live with their decisions. Inside, Starmer still believes silence equals control. But silence now sounds like surrender. Movements like this don't fade, they evolve. They grow with every empty fridge, every cold night, every headline that calls suffering necessary. Because when obedience costs more than rebellion, rebellion becomes survival. And tonight, Britain has done the math. Starmer can still step outside, listen, lead, and change course. Or he can stay behind those iron gates and watch history erase his name. Every movement reaches a moment of truth, the point where silence becomes impossible. Tonight, Britain stands there. This is no longer about energy bills or inflation. It's about dignity. Whether leaders serve the people or simply manage them, Starmer can still face the cold and listen. He can still remember that leadership means humility, not distance. But if he waits too long, the chants outside won't just be noise, they'll become history. Because history never remembers politicians who hid behind statements. It remembers the people who refuse to freeze quietly. If you believe their voices deserve to be heard, if you believe truth still matters, hit subscribe, share this, and stay tuned. Because this story isn't over. Britain is deciding what kind of nation it wants to be. And tonight, the world is watching.